Base drive home brain dump time. This past Sunday, Beth and I participated in a local discussion group as part of the ExploreGod.com initiative that's taking place here in Austin. And I promised I'd give a video report, and I'll get to that in just a couple minutes. But before that, I want to touch on a related topic. When I announced that we were going to do this, I got a number of responses. Some of them I'm sure were humorous, it's a trap kind of messages. But there were some others that seemed to have a particular view of Christianity or of Christians that I don't share and that I find a little troubling. And I think it's important for us to remember to not paint with too broad a brush. Certainly there are contexts where you can say Christianity is blah, blah, blah. But they're rare. And we have to acknowledge that even when we're being somewhat fair in talking in a generalized sense, that there's going to be exceptions. There's, last I checked, over 1,000 denominations that identify as Christian, and there's probably not a single point of doctrine that one or more of them doesn't reject or accept in a different context than some other denomination. And if you went to a particular church in any of those denominations, you would find a wide range of beliefs. And even if you got down to the level of the pew, assuming you could find a church with a pew instead of stadium seating, you're going to find a variety of beliefs on that any given pew in any given church, in any given denomination, within Christianity, within the larger scope of religion. And if you found two people who actually did share the same belief, they don't necessarily share all the same beliefs. They have other beliefs within the context of their religion and other beliefs about the world in general. Nobody's a perfect thinker, and it's highly unlikely that anybody's worldview is entirely consistent and foolproof. And so there's no guarantee that any given belief will necessarily produce a particular effect in someone's life. Now, I've said many times that, beliefs are important because beliefs inform our actions, and our actions have consequences for ourselves and others. And that's true. But the fact that somebody happens to believe this one discrete thing doesn't necessarily tell you what actions they're going to take. It can tell you what actions are more likely. And certainly there are actions that are more consistent with beliefs. But some people, for example, have been traumatized by the threat of hell. I've heard from people who've been atheists for 50 years and who still occasionally wake up at night from nightmares of the childhood indoctrination that they received about the threat of hell. For others like me, the threat of hell kind of vanished. It holds absolutely no power to make me even flinch, or think twice about it. And so because there's this wide range of beliefs and different effects for different beliefs, when we presume that we understand what an individual believes just because they're part of a particular denomination, we might be making a mistake. And if we don't know anything about the denomination, we're just assuming, we're probably more likely to be making a mistake. People are generally good, even when they have bad and really harmful beliefs. The people who do egregious harm are the outliers, even if there's a significant, well-funded vocal collection of them. They're still the outliers, and people, especially in interpersonal relationships, tend to be decent because we are the descendants of people who learned how to cooperate. And the ones who didn't cooperate didn't thrive. Unfortunately, we're still prone to violent reactions and hateful rifts because we're not perfect thinkers, because we are emotional creatures, because we have kind of kinship factors that promote in-group and out-group thinking. And by the way, that's not an indictment of all in-group and out-group thinking. There are some people who are assholes who I don't want to be part of a group, that I'm in. If you're I don't really want to hang out with murderers. Not a big fan of hanging out with nihilists, but they're just depressing. So anyway, exploregod.com is a website. I was interviewed by the local news about this and talked about, they ran the story that I thought it was a waste of money, which is fair. I mean, they ran video of me saying it, but it was really the story that they were wanting to tell. And in reality, I talked a little bit more about how I was actually in favor of the project, because exploring God is how I got to where I am today. And I also mentioned that if they really wanted to explore God, they should have got some atheists. Now, what I meant was the videos that are on the exploregod.com site seem to be from a very narrow perspective on the questions. They are seemingly moderate to liberal theologians, ministers, offering I don't want to write it off as, just sophistry, but it's not just the standard apologetics. It seems to be an attempt to meet people where they are, which I would encourage. Coming from my Southern Baptist background, I could say that they're doing it all wrong, because God doesn't want you to meet people where they are. God wants people to meet Him where He is. But that's a doctrinal point that people are going to disagree on. One of the local pastors contacted me and said, "Hey, I'd love it if you and Beth would come to our group." And so apparently what they've done, and I don't have all the details, is instead of the regular Sunday evening service, the church divides up into smaller subgroups. They meet at the home of somebody in the church, and this was an amazing, lovely home that I was more than moderately envious of. But and then they invite people who aren't from their church, and the immediate suspicion on the part of a lot of people is that, this is a tool for proselytizing. They want to get a bunch of people whose beliefs are wrong in there to correct them. And I didn't for a moment think that was the purpose. And after being there Sunday night, I still don't think that that's the purpose. We went, and the first topic, it's going to be 5 weeks. This was the first week. And next week, the topic will be, does God exist? So I jokingly told the pastor that I would have expected us to do that one first, because if we can agree that He doesn't exist, then the other 4 weeks can be spent on other things, barbecuing and sitting around talking and getting to know each other as people, and sorting out what do we do with the rest of our lives now that we've dumped this God concept. So that'll be next week. But we started with, why does God allow pain and suffering? And it's was voted as like the most troubling question by the Barna Group. It's a derivation of the problem of evil. And there were a number of people who shared incredibly painful and heartbreaking stories about the personal tragedies that they'd experienced in their life. And for some of them, it prompted a time of questioning, doubt, anger. For others, it was, I don't necessarily know why, but I couldn't have got through it if it hadn't been for God, if it hadn't been for my belief in God. And he had given a sermon that Sunday that was reflected in what several other people said and in what I said, which is that the why question isn't as important as the this has happened, so what do we do now question, which I found really encouraging that so many people immediately recognize this. I wouldn't have said that the why question is not as important. I think the why question is an error. And at one point, the pastor, after some people had shared their stories, addressed me and pointed out who I was and asked me what I thought about this as an atheist. And I pointed out that this wasn't a big issue for me when I was a believer. The particular Baptist tradition that I was in, I didn't really struggle with why does God allow this, because there were so many answers for the why from a biblical perspective. It's the result of the fall, or it is occasionally a test, or God does things to strengthen us, or everything happens according to God's plan, and if God lets me know his plan, that's fine, and if he doesn't, well, I just have to have faith that God is working in my best interest, so it wasn't a big deal. And it's definitely not a big deal for me as an atheist, because in order to presume that there is a why and that you need an answer to that why, you have to begin with the presumption that there's some plan, that there's some universal governor that is allowing and disallowing actions. And as far as I can tell, the universe doesn't care at all about my existence, and this is just the natural course of things. Some things are going to happen, some things are not going to happen. Some things are going to be good, some things are going to be bad. And I find it curious that we've excluded the possibility that there is a God who's an evil God, which would prompt the question, why does God allow joy and happiness? It's this conflict between the perceptions that is the potential problem. There was a lot that was discussed in the short hour, and I contributed a little bit. And it was interesting. People came up to me afterwards and talked. There was one woman who said that she specifically came to this group because they told her that I would be there, and her son is an atheist, and she's wanting to get to know me and talk to me a little bit to get a better understanding of, her son. And there was a second woman there, and I believe her son was also an atheist. She kind of shrugged it off as, well, he's 19 and still finding his way. And I didn't immediately jump in and say, maybe he's found it. Maybe he's a little quicker. Because I don't know her son, and because I'm not there to poo-poo everything everybody says. There were other atheists, at least one, at the event. And it was interesting because I would give an answer and the guy in front of me would give a similar answer, a different take on it, expound on it, make good points. And Beth and I are sitting there going, man, we really like this guy. And of course, he turns out to be an atheist, which wasn't a huge surprise. But we had a good time. Everybody was friendly. They were eager to have us back. These are people who are legitimately interested in exploring these questions and learning about what other people think. And that is exactly what I would encourage. It's what I want to do on the show. It's the sort of conversations that I think need to take place more. It is the sort of thing that makes believers aware of who atheists are, what we do and don't believe, that we are not, as some would say from the pulpit, evil monstrosities bent on destroying God's country and God's people. It's a way for people to connect. Now, do I think I'm going to turn a group of 25, 30 Christians into atheists? No, that's not my goal for going there either. If it happens, great. If some people change their mind, great. My goal in participating in this is I want them all to be able to say that they've met an atheist, liked an atheist, found an atheist thoughtful, decent. I don't want them ever to be able to put the false straw man version of an atheist out there as their only perception of this. And I'd actually like to get to know, some of these people, and in particular, there were some people. One of the individuals who talked about just tremendous pain said that she really wanted to talk to me because she just can't fathom the possibility that that there isn't a God, because she couldn't have made it through without it. And I think she could and did. I don't think she's giving herself enough credit. Saying that you had no place else to turn other than a church is more of an evidence of the society that we've built, that we don't have enough secular mechanisms in place to help people deal with grief and loss and trauma and abuse and mental health. We're doing a lot of good things, and the secular community is growing and improving, with organizations like Recovering from Religion and the Secular Therapist Project and Grief Beyond Belief and charitable efforts, Foundation Beyond Belief, all of these things that just amazing people have done, and I'm just some guy who talks. But I'm also a guy who likes to talk to people who may not have otherwise ever met an atheist or had a conversation with an atheist that was productive. And as long as we can sit around and acknowledge where we agree, and acknowledge that we're aware of what the actual disagreements are, I find it rather productive. It's 5 weeks long. I'm pretty sure I'm going to miss the middle week because I'll be in Omaha at ApostaCon. Go to apostacon.org for more information. But I'll try to go all of the other weeks. I may be a little late because of the TV show, but that's the plan. See you later.